Here we go. Thank you once again for joining us at Techopia Live. We are very excited to have you here. And yes, we are excited to showcase the amazing tech CEO that we have with us today, Mark Smalowicz from Interset. Thank you so much for joining us today. Mark, now, we are excited to talk about your company because we are talking about cybersecurity, and we hear that word quite frequently these days. And what's interesting about your company is, we are getting deeper and deeper into data. We are getting deeper and deeper into cybersecurity. And, it's a question sometimes if the human mind can really deal with all the specifics, the data, and of course the analytics associated with cybersecurity. So, we want to stay away from these threats, and as we grow in time, these threats become more modern, more advanced. So let's talk a little bit firstly about Interset. Share with us.
So Interset is a security analytics company that uses big data analytics. It's on a big data platform and basically digests massive amounts of information to understand the normal behavior of users and entities within an organization. So what we can do is distill down from, say, a company that has, or an organization that has 25,000 employees, for example, down to maybe the 3, 4, or 5 that are at the most risk. And we contend that it's humanly impossible to achieve that through just basic deterministic means by trying to look at a bunch of alerts and massive amounts of data. So security practitioners these days are just overwhelmed, and you see it in the news all the time with all the threats that are coming in. So they're constantly, deleting threats, tracing down dead ends, et cetera. So what we're doing essentially is looking at a big haystack, and instead of going through each piece of hay, we're just surfacing the 4 or 5 needles that are most risky. And we do this through understanding normal behavior of things. So we use advanced mathematics to say, Carlo, operates at a certain time of day, he touches certain IP, et cetera. And what we can do then is deduce that, hey, Carlo is working at an odd time of day. Not really weird, kind of weird. He's touching IP that he doesn't normally touch. Okay, a little bit more weird. His peers don't touch this data as well. How did we deduce his peers? Mathematically, we figured out sort of how you sort of operate. So we can deduce and lift you up to a high level of risk based on that behavior. And a good portion of threats that come in these days are coming from the outside into the inside to compromise you as a user. So someone's coming in as Carlo, acting like Carlo, maybe for 3 or 4 or 5 months, moving around, finding the honeypots of data, and then going ahead and making the heist, so to speak. Okay. So that's essentially what we're doing. And yep.
So, that sounds phenomenally interesting, and also sounds that it clearly is a case where we have to take all that data, and you obviously are focused on a way to take that information, of course, tying it in with artificial intelligence. And then, it's clear that there's certain limitations to what the human mind can do, and you kind of made that example of, the security analytic, looking at the various points, alerting him, but there's only so many you can look at the same time. So how do you see this evolving and really tying artificial intelligence into what you are providing and trying to, get that solution for a company faster, quicker, and easier?
Well, you're still going to need your security practitioners that are there on a daily basis tracking down these threats. We're just making their job doable through artificial intelligence. We have hundreds of mathematical models that are firing in the background, trying to understand the normal behavior of the entity at large or the individual at large. But at the end of the day, I don't see in the foreseeable future this becoming completely automated where there's no humans in the picture and we're just automatically detecting and stopping each threat as it happens. There's still the baseline of security that even kind of transcends technology in terms of how they find sort of bad actors that are starting to or trying to steal IP, et cetera. So I don't see that sort of happening, in the near future. But that said, what we are doing is instead of coming in and ripping and replacing the security tools that you already have, we're actually integrating with a lot of those tools, even on an OEM basis, and making those tools better, smarter, faster through our artificial intelligence and behavioral analytics. So we're trying to take the investment that these companies have already made and organizations have made and actually make it doable and workable and actually work. We failed to stop these threats worse over the years, and it's only getting worse, as you can see in the news. So that's and the last thing I would say is, we sit on a big data platform, and at the end of the day, what we're doing is just hard. It took us really 3 years to really get to market with this big data platform, and we've got a great group of talented people here in Ottawa. But it is not, in my experience in doing venture-backed software startups, there's some heavy lifting, but we think it's really paying off now, where it was evangelical 2 years ago. Now we're having tremendous sort of uptake in our product. So.
That's awesome. And before we go on, for those of you that's watching it, I'm here today with the President CEO of Interset, Mark Smilowicz. I think I said that right. I'm very excited. It's like, Mark S, you can go with that. Mark is giving us an insight on Interset and, of course, your combination of cybersecurity and, of course, integrating that into AI. How are you getting your solution attention out there? I mean, this is a pretty big space. There's a lot of things happening. What are you doing out there to kind of make you stand out a little bit from the rest, and what are you bringing to the table?
Sure, I'd say, we do engage in the traditional channels of doing shows, doing blogs, doing webinars, bringing user groups together, things like this. But I'd say the number one thing for our growth that we saw last year, which was really tremendous, unprecedented growth for us, is really word of mouth around the CISOs and security organizations within larger companies. So we've had, I can't name them now, but we've had some really large deployments with major defense companies, with telcos, with healthcare companies, with large financial institutions. And that, I think the word of mouth there has really driven a lot of our growth. We've also done some important OEMs with other software companies as well, which has also sort of led to sort of the awareness that we're getting out there. I think what you'll see this year is we're starting to lean a little bit more into the marketing and starting to kind of tell our story and the success we've had over the past year. But what you'll find in the space is, for the past 2 or 3 years, everyone throws around the term, artificial intelligence, behavioral analytics, Bayesian inference, all these terms. And as I said before, it's hard to do. We think we've pulled it off, and it's really the proof in the pudding that we're trying to drive now, as opposed to doing a lot of architecture. That said, we do want to start to really tell our story this year.
Wonderful. Yep. Well, I'm glad that we're here telling your story, because it's wonderful. No. Of course, no. I mean, it's wonderful, and this is why we love what we do, is because we know that we have such an amazing group, ecosystem of companies within our city and also across Canada. But I also want to just touch on the fact that, you're sitting here, and I wish I could say that was a strong Ottawa accent, but it's not, and I don't have a strong Ottawa accent either. But you're originally from California, you're based in California, and the company kind of really, as you said, took off in the security realm about 3 years or so ago here in Ottawa specifically. I want to touch on that, because that really excites me, and it's really interesting to know why Ottawa? Why did this city, out of so many other cities, kind of stood out for you?
Well, the company originated in Ottawa before it really started to apply the technology towards security. And when we decided to get into the analytics side, we needed deep math experience, data science experience, and big enterprise architecture experience out of the talent we were looking for. And we just decided to look where we were and just expanded the team probably 8 to 10-fold since then, and have just a tremendous group of young people, and that are all sort of, some of them which have worked before together at IBM, at Cognos, et cetera. But this team has just sort of networked in its own Ottawa network to the point where we don't really need to look anywhere else. We're just going to continue to build the team here. And it's great. And yeah, it's about a 60, 70 degree temperature difference, especially today, but it's great. And we bring some of the Ottawa folks out to California as well. We've also got some US folks around the country, sales engineering, et cetera. But this is definitely the heartbeat of the company, at least as far as the technology and the technical vision goes.
Beautiful, that's great. Yep. Well, thank you very much, Mark, for joining us today. For those of you that's watching us here on Techopia, make sure that you tune in every Monday and Wednesday, as we have a variety of fascinating conversations with some spectacular companies, amazing CEOs that travel great distances to come and sit here on our show and talk about their company. Congratulations on the growth of Interset. We look forward in seeing what amazing road lies ahead for the company, and also look forward and having you be a part of this ecosystem and just growing what we have as a city, as a country, and of course as an industry as well. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys.